So, right, go then, Maui. What's your take?
Okay, mine is one you might have to get your browsers out for.
Come on.
But like this is so crazy to me that I actually looked at both of these and now I believe this.
Right.
The ESL ranking is better than the HLTV ranking for the top 20.
God,
the top 20 for ESL ranking is better than HLTV. So I'll give you a couple of the key differences in the rankings right now. That I think makes it better. One is that in ESL's ranking, Spirit is 8th, and in HLTV, Spirit is 12th. In the ESL one, complexity is a little bit lower. In the ESL one, Mouse is higher. Okay, so HLTV, Mouse is 14th. ESL, Mouse is 11th. I think that's actually way more accurate. In the ESL ranking, FaZe is 1 spot higher, and Vitality is 2 spots lower. So FaZe on the ESL ranking is the 6th best team in the world, and is 7th on HLTV. Vitality is 5th best right now on HLTV, but on ESL, they're 7th. And there's what else? I think if you go to like 20th also, like, okay, on HLTVs, Astralis is the 13th best team in the world, which is crazy to me. But on ESLs, they're 20th. Like, they're way lower. And I think that's super accurate. I don't think Astralis is a top 13 team right now. I think they really more are in the 20th range. And also, ENCE is 16th on ESLs, and on HLTVs, they're 20th. Like, I think looking at these side by side, there is almost no complaint I have with, like, any of it where I say, like,
what about Outsiders? Aren't they too high on ESLs?
Outsiders are 4th. But
that's just winning the major, let's be real. And
they're 6th for being on HLTVs. Okay, so that's probably one of the couple that I would say, like...
That was just the one that seemed egregious to me. Aside from that, I'm with you. I actually think that you can make a solid case for the ESL one this time.
I think there's pretty much, like, 1 or 2 things I would prefer HLTV's ranking for, but I think that most of ESL's ranking, I think, stronger right now. Just going 1-to-1.
Do you think that, Liquid deserves number 3 spot in the rankings in ESL?
Well, they have... So for, like... HLTVs, it's Navi. I don't think not. I think that's pretty 50-50 to me. I think those are pretty close. And if you look at the points values, ESLs does give Liquid kind of more points than, but I think there's a case for it. I think Liquid will finish top 4 at Pro League. So.
Here's the thing, Kassad. You're the reason why, if you noticed, I recently launched a world rankings. And I always did them, right? But it isn't a world rankings. It's just who are my 10 best teams today. And I purposely made it biased. Like, for example, I have NIP number 10th just because I'm a Lexi B stand. I don't have to have any other reason. I don't have to have a result to show you. A win. Now, the reason why I did that format, Kassad, is for what I think you're actually arguing for, which is I've noticed you're one of those people who is always like, when Astralis made that, like, bullshit fucking top 4 run at Cologne and it boosted them way up the rankings. I think they were ranked like 3rd or 4th by HLTV.
Yeah, I think they were 3rd.
Here's the problem with that, Kassad. I know from if you do rankings, you're trying to do it like tennis, like you just place it. Like in that scenario, you actually have to give them that ranking. Same with Mouse when they made top 4 at the major. But what you're doing is what I'm doing now, which is you're just going like they're not really the 3rd best team. Like if you put a gun to my head and said like name the top 5 teams in the world, I wouldn't have picked Astralis at that point in time, right? So I get what you mean, but the problem is when you make these rankings, like how could Team Liquid not be top 4? Like they're in every bloody semi-final and final. Like what like just from the way rankings work, if they're based on like placings, they sort of have to be. I agree. Like I'd pick other team to beat them that are below them, but that's a different criteria,
For me, honestly, Spirit is like shouldn't be a number 8 on ESL.
Should be higher or lower?
Lower. Definitely lower. Let's see, Vitality.
Look at Astralis' place, though. Look at Astralis' position on HLTV.
That's a joke. Yeah, that's a joke. But it's like they're number 12, right? And they're 20 in the ESL. So I don't know why.
It does seem inconceivable how they could be 30th.
You can even OG, like you can even have OG here on their number 12 in ESL, and they are number 11
on HLTV. I think they should be lower than 11th though.
They should be way lower than 11 or 12. Like it's like they shouldn't be there. They don't deserve to be there right now. They didn't show anything. It's just the rankings are a little bit. They've always been fucked on both sides, ESL and HLTV. I don't know how. The thing is, like, I can sit here and just
I can tell you how to
talk about it, but I don't know how to fix it. That's the thing.
I think I know what you have to do. Basically, the main problem is this. because I've done loads of rankings and I've studied ranking systems around the world. The real problem is this, and people can't do it because essentially, nearly every sport that I'm aware of, chess, tennis, etc., the problem is they have way more homogenous fields. So like most of the top players all play the same circuit with only a few differences. So it means you can use like more strict ranking metrics. So for example, the obvious metric that I think fixes the majority of these, because the point is we want the placing, you do want to reward them for that's how a ranking works, but you want to attenuate the placing based on whether it was fraudulent or legit. And the only way you can do that, in my opinion, is some sort of like an ELO system. And essentially what you do is you reward people for beating good teams. So instead of like, the reason why no one cared about that Astralis top 4 run is because if you ever go look who they played, it was just a wonky tournament where it's a bit like the major, all the bad teams played the bad teams. And in the end, you were just beating fucking people like, who gives, like Mouse, like that's who you had to beat to make like a semi or something. So I think if you had like an ELO system, then actually the teams that are beating good people would be the ones that would be like slightly higher. So what you'd have is, instead of like, again, a good example would be like complexity. So complexity, they wouldn't be 8th. They'd be in a range of like 8 to 10. And then you'd be like, well, they didn't really get that many big scalps. So maybe they're like 9th or 10th. But then, for example, if I had to pick a random example, I would actually say someone like OG's not even a bad example. Sometimes they do get the upset, you know. Sometimes maybe they do get a bigger scalp. So I think that's the problem with the worst rankings.
But they get a big scalp, like they get upset simply because they have the benefit of being a partnership team.
That helps for sure.
In Blast.
That also ruins all these rankings.
That's the fucked up part.
Like essentially, it basically means if you're like evil geniuses, you have to try really hard to ever drop out like the top 30. It's why when they brag about ranking, it's like, bro, you just get. Yeah. It's like you're just getting like a pole position every fucking race, and you're still the worst driver, but you just don't come last. You know what I mean? Like
that's why the real hero of the rankings are Cloud9.
Yeah,
they're not a partner with.
They're not in any.
Heroic
outsiders.
Oh, they're in the Louvre one technically.
Outsiders.
Right? Yes.
Yeah. Outsiders. Are they a partner with ESL?
Outsiders, when they were Virtus Pro, were, but obviously as outsiders, I think they have to qualify for their spot. But I think they got in through that system when they became outside. I think they had to go through a qualifier when they did. But I know that I think Cloud9's in the Louvre agreement now. It's just they're not in Blast, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just ask like right now though, which world ranking, if you had to just go by kind of how you feel about ESLs versus HLTVs right now for the top 20, which one would you pick?
Assad, for right now?
ESL.
Yeah, I mean that's what I think is crazy because I think we were all clowning the ESL one for so long, and I think somehow it's. So I don't know if it's just a string of tournaments or whatever that they ranked appropriately, but I think it looks better now than HLTVs.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.